Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to dive deep into the second episode of Buddhism on Screen. Today we're looking at Lama, which is a Nepalese indie film that was released in 2016, and it is set during the Maoist civil war. It's a very short film. The film is like a little bit over an hour long. It's very slow. It's contemplative, meditative. And before we begin, I want to give a quick, huge shout out to the film's director, Nishal Purial. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Back in August, he reached out to me after watching the commentary that I gave for the Burmese Harp, the first episode of Buddhism on Screen. In the email, he wrote how much the commentary, the review resonated with him, and he kindly introduced me to this film. So in today's episode, I'm going to be giving my thoughts and analysis on this beautiful poetic film. The film begins quietly in a monastery where a young monk named Jamyang visits his teacher, Khenpo La. Their exchange begins with humor. Khenpo asks how to punish someone who disturbs meditation, and Jamyang replies that it's an honor to be punished by a bodhisattva. But this lightness soon turns into teaching. The mind, Khenpo reminds him, is like a wild elephant, powerful, restless, destructive when left untamed. Meditation is the tether, the training, the path toward calm. Some truths, he tells Jamyang, cannot be handed down by teachers. They must be discovered by oneself. The time has come for Jamyang to leave. Khenpo entrusts him with a bundle of pecha, traditional Tibetan scriptural texts, to deliver to another teacher at a higher monastery. He blesses his student, reminding him that he has been among the best pupils he has taught, and urges him to go, to learn, to explore. On the road, Jamyang meets a young man named Arjun. Their first encounter is playful, almost mocking. Arjun teases Jamyang, calls him a stupid monk, but soon grows curious about his prayers. Jamyang explains that he's been reciting the mantra of Manjushri, the bodhisattva of wisdom, and that the wind itself can carry prayers out into the world. Amused, Arjun points out that Jamyang has wandered onto the wrong path. He invites the monk to stay the night in his village, warning him of wild animals in the forest. As their conversations deepen, Arjun asks Jamyang why he never grew angry at his insults. Jamyang answers calmly, "Anger is our greatest enemy. Without restraint, it consumes the mind." Arjun admits that he is hot-headed, quick to fury, and unable to focus. Jamyang encourages him toward meditation, but the journey soon takes a darker turn. On the road, they encounter Arjun's friend and comrade, Vikram, a rebel fighter thought to be dead. The reunion erupts into accusation and grief. Vikram calls Arjun a traitor, blaming him for deserting their comrades during a raid. Their dialogue blurs life and death. Vikram insists he's already a ghost, lingering among the living. The two men drink together, remember their youth, speak of women they once loved, and recall the cruelty of their village. Vikram eventually collapses, leaving Arjun stricken with grief. Jamyang performs prayers for the dead, explaining that a soul does not vanish at death, but wanders in a transitional state. He prays for Vikram to find a better rebirth. Arjun listens in silence, shaken, perhaps for the first time glimpsing the Buddhist way of seeing impermanence. The two continue on to Arjun's village, where Jamyang meets Maya, Arjun's sister. She's been accused of being a witch, blamed for an outbreak of cholera, scapegoated by fearful villagers. Despite this, Maya is warm and kind, offering food and hospitality to Jamyang. Through her, the film shows how superstition can wound the innocent, how ignorance is projected onto the vulnerable. In a pivotal scene, Arjun confesses that he cannot control his anger or his restless mind. Jamyang guides him again toward meditation, urging him to let distractions pass without clinging. But Arjun, frustrated, challenges him. How can one meditate while carrying weapons, while living amidst violence? He asks to try on Jamyang's robes, and Jamyang agrees. Arjun slips them on, and the effect is striking. From here, Jamyang begins to fade into the background of the story. Having taken on Arjun's role, he is seemingly killed off-screen by advancing soldiers. At dawn, novices from the higher monastery gather and call out that the Lama has arrived. The film then cuts to its final scene, a lone figure in monastic robes looking up at the novices. And in that moment, the screen cuts to black. So the world of Lama law is rooted in Vajrayāna Buddhism, which is a form of Buddhism that is very prevalent and has shaped much of Nepalese, Tibetan, and Himalayan life. And it's a form of Buddhism that places heavy emphasis on rituals and symbolism and mythical narratives. And I notice how these qualities pretty much shape the world of the film, and it gives it a very spiritual texture that is quite different from what I'm used to with Theravada. So the first Vajrayāna element in that movie is bardo, which refers to the intermediate state between life and death. And if I'm not mistaken, this concept is borrowed or originates from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. In Theravada, however, rebirth is spontaneous, it's immediate. Basically, the last consciousness of this life conditions the first consciousness of the next life in a process called dependent origination. The second element is the bodhisattva ideal. So in Vajrayāna, this is not unusual. The bodhisattva ideal is the central mode of practice for all beings, for all practitioners. So basically, Vajrayāna preaches that one should vow to liberate beings, all beings, even to the point where you have to postpone or delay your own liberation just to save all the beings in samsaric existence. In Theravada, though, the bodhisattva ideal is more reserved for Buddha-to-bes. That is a being who is trying to strive for Buddhahood. But the Buddha preached, at least in our tradition, that nirvana or enlightenment is accessible to everyone, not just a bodhisattva or a being that is training to be a Buddha. So the normative path for monks in the Theravada tradition is to attain liberation for themselves. The third element is the film's reliance on ritual efficacy. We can see a lot of these external objects, ritual objects, throughout the film. We see prayers, we see mantras, we see flags. And Vajrayāna Buddhists believe that these external objects can transmit or spread your merits and blessings to the departed, even to beings that you cannot see. In Vajrayāna, the environment, the elements, nature itself, the very fabric of existence can become a vehicle for practice. But in Theravada, it's a little bit different. We do share merit, we do share our blessings, but in Theravada, we emphasize heavily on intention rather than external objects. We believe that it is intention, it is the mind or the purity of the mind that carries these merit to the departed or to beings that we cannot see. So near the end of the movie, when Jamyang gives his monastic robes to Arjun, it could be seen as the spread of a blessing or the transmission of his lineage. So from how I see it, the robes were never Jamyang's because the identity of a Lama is also not a self, it's just a convention. Identities are merely conventions. So in a way, the identity of a Lama is just a conventional term to coin a monk in the Sangha or the monastic community. The ambiguity of the film's ending is not a problem to be solved. It is a teaching in itself. Whether Jamyang died or Arjun took on his role and became a Lama is beside the point, because the Dhamma simply does not vanish with one person, nor does it depend on who is wearing the robe. Like I said, the Dhamma outlives us all. And interestingly, the film ends with a call, Lama La, not to just Arjun himself, but to anyone who is willing to walk the noble path. The film, at its core, reminds me that even though lives end and identities shift, the Dhamma doesn't. The robe, like the Dhamma, belongs to no one, and the Dhamma and the robe outlives us all. In terms of craft, there are a few areas that I believe would have enhanced the viewing experience for sure. For example, the lighting. Occasionally, there were some scenes in the movie, especially the scene where Jamyang, Arjun, and Vikram were talking around a fireplace. The scene was a little bit too dark for me to actually catch what was happening. That said, the backdrop of the Himalayas more than compensates. I think the film is at its best in those contemplative, meditative scenes of Jamyang and Arjun being set against all these natural backgrounds, the forests, the valleys, lakes, the highlands. In those moments, nature and Buddhism blend seamlessly. And very much like the Burmese harp, where nature itself, the landscape itself, becomes part of the spiritual journey. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you found this commentary interesting or just insightful. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, take care.